Here to dive in deep on Once Human is Victoria Pengson, Senior Game Designer over at NetEase Games. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Victoria. I'm a developer from the Once Human team. I'm in charge of putting together the big world of the game, designing levels and environments, as well as developing non-player characters and their background stories.
Once Human is a new weird survival game. But what is new weird?
Well, New Weird is a literature and film genre that emerged in the mid-20th century, and it features unexplainable, incomprehensible horror, which is related to cosmic horror, some urban myth, and sci-fi stories. A good living sample of this genre could be the SCP Foundation database that is quite popular these days online, and we did to some extent get inspired by them.
I love SCP, so this already sounds amazing, but what's unique about Once Human and what separates it from other survival games?
Once Human features a post-apocalyptic world where humanity has fallen after the havoc of Stardust. We have players named Beyonders in the game, and they have to face the threats of the unknown horror. In our game, survival is of highest priority to the players. Besides collecting resources and building their own shelters for survival, players have to craft and strengthen weapons and equipment to involve in intense fighting against both aberrant monsters and fellow human enemies. We have bosses named the Great Ones in our game. They are cunning, unfathomable, and devious in their behavior and appearance. Players need to compete with each other as well, both individually and united in groups named hives. They have to fight for ownership of strongholds or to loot resources in the dangerous areas we call impasse. These features all make our game, our Once Human, stands out from other survival games.
Now, the new trailer opens with a line from H.P. Lovecraft. What influence did you draw from his work?
Well, our team loves Mr. Lovecraft, especially in his unique way of picturing those eerie horror stories. And to some extent, we are inspired by his horror stories, and we are trying to build our own world of unique horror and mystery. We would like to convey to the players the essence of this world after the outburst of Stardust havoc. This unknown micro-creature just suddenly spread all over the world and contaminated everything. And we have monsters emerge and invade the world, and there our players, Beyonders, stands as a hero confronting all of this ever-changing and still unknown disaster. And players, the Beyonders, have to evolve in their physical status and their technology to make more advanced equipment to fight back.
And what was your inspiration for designing the aberrant monsters known as the Great Ones?
So the Great Ones in our game are powerful creatures coming from outside of the dimension where human lives in. They permeate the boundaries between dimensions and invaded the human world. So we look back to Cthulhu concepts and the SCP project concepts for some inspirations when we design these monsters, and we condense the figures of the Great Ones from those. Well, they should look like something beyond human comprehension, daunting yet beautiful in a weird way. They are powerful as they look, and they are the most exciting challenges we have prepared for our players to experience.
What about the game map? What inspired your team to design those fascinating cities and structures?
Well, our game map is huge. So basically, the story happens on a big island named Nowcut. And on the island, there are generally 4 different areas. For example, there is the Blackfell region, which is in the east on that island, and it features marshes, moors, and deserts. And you can experience sandstorm weathers from time to time in this area. And other areas all feature its own geological structures and its unique landscapes. For example, Arkham Mountains in the north is cold and snowy and dangerous, and it's decorated with a lot of plane crash sites. And in the west, there are the Great Plains, and it looks friendly there, but it actually has the largest complicated underground subway tunnel systems. So you can actually explore into those dangerous tunnels and caves hidden there, meeting a lot of enemies.
Now, this map is huge. What can players do in this massive map?
Well, the map is big, and what you can do in it is kind of countless. You can do a lot of things. At first, you can probably freely explore the game world on the big map, and you can choose the best spots that you like to build your own shelter. You can build your shelter as you wish. You can design it. You can put as many structures as it's limited in your shelter. And to build your shelter, you have to collect resources first. There are over 100 types of different resources that you can collect in our game. And some of them are natural resources like logs, stones, ores, and water, and animal products like hide and raw meat and stuff like those. And you can also loot the human strongholds to find scraps like industry products, and you can decompose them into useful materials to craft items. In terms of survival shelter building, you can build structures and you can actually decorate your home using like green plants and clocks and furnitures and so many different things.
Oh, I love decoration, so I'm definitely going to spend hours in that part of the game. But do you have any tips on how players can survive in the wilderness?
Well, first of all, you have to pay attention to your physical functions. Like, you have to ensure that you stay hydrated, you stay stomach filled, and you're sane enough to survive. If you dump yourself too long in the polluted water, you probably get diseases and delusions, and you have to find medicines to cure those. So craft and use various items, like consumable items, to ensure that your physical status is always in the healthy range. It's very important in terms of survival. And also, you have to learn to improve your equipment and weapons. You can add attributes and potential skills to your weapons. You can craft like gun perks, and from blueprints, you can get like rare and higher quality weapons. So you have to explore the big world to find these gun perks and blueprints. Also, you probably need to form alliances with other players, and working with allies can boost the chance of defeating the Great Ones. And also, you form groups like Hive, and you can actually cooperate with your fellow Hive members to challenge other players.
And how do PvE Great One invasions work? Can they be soloed, or do they need teamwork?
Well, the Great One invasions can be encountered in different level areas of the map. And basically, in one level area, there will be 1 to 2 Great Ones that you can find. And each Great Ones will have basically 4 different difficulty levels, and you can unlock the higher level after you finish the previous one. So higher level Great Ones will definitely be more destructive and cause a lot more damage to you. If you are confident enough in your battle moves, in your combat skills, and in your equipment and weapons, you can solo the Great Ones alone. But generally, we recommend that 2 to 4 players team up and challenge them. Since the Great One invasion is such difficult PvE challenge, we also prepare generous rewards for every player who successfully contained a beast in their dimension.
Now, what other PvE content is in the game?
Actually, besides the Great One invasion we just talked about, we have the raid dungeons, and we have various world exploration missions. Talking about the raid dungeons, well, they are at various locations around the world, and they feature prolonged exploration in the dungeon. Basically, there will be 2 to 3 bosses in one dungeon, and in each stage there will be 1 boss. And the battles in the dungeons are more intense, and it features a lot of battle mechanisms that you have to deal with. So we recommend that players team up, maybe 4 players form a team to challenge these dungeons. Besides intense battles, you can also loot the chest in the dungeons between battles, and you may find interactive pieces of paper, interactive computer terminals that you can actually get a lot of story information from them. These story slices sometimes provide a lot of important clues that will guide you to better perform your world exploration.
Besides PvE, we know that there's also PvP. How does that work?
In terms of PvP, we basically have two main modes of PvP, and one is called Stronghold Conquest. In terms to join this, you have to first form groups called Hive. Hive is a group that can accommodate 30 to 100 people each, and hives can occupy and compete for resource areas around in the big world. Different hives can definitely attack each other, so when one hive declares war on another, the system will automatically pick 2 leaders one in each hive, and they have to recruit their teams of attackers and defenders. Then the attackers team need to gain dominance over the defenders' beacon area in a limited time, so as to have control over that resource area. And the defender team have to build defending constructions in the resource area and guard and stand their ground. There is also free PvP in the impasse zone. So indeed, the impasse zone is a PvE-VP exploration area. So players team up and different teams just enter the impasse zone at the same time. You have to deal with non-player enemies like aberrant monsters or a set of soldiers. And at the same time, you have to beware of sneak attacks by other players, because everyone is competing for the rare resource called source in that area. And if you defeat another player and loot his body, you will get a large amount of source.
And what rewards are there for players who participate in PvP?
In Stronghold Conquest, you can get gun perks, gun blueprints. You can get the Energy Link and Stardust Cortex, which is all possible rewards for players who participated in a stronghold conquest between hives. And these are all valuable resources that you can use to strengthen your build and use to craft powerful weapons. In the impasse, players can farm the resource named Source, which can be converted to Stardust Cortex. And if you use some Stardust Cortex when you craft your weapons and equipments, they will add random perks to your weapons and equipments. And also you can use them as money to exchange for other items in the non-player characters' inventory stores. It is located in a lot of human strongholds.
Now, what kind of firearms and weapons are available in the game? Can they only be crafted, or can you find them out in the world?
Well, firearms are the most important combat weapons in our game. In terms of types of firearms, we have so many. We have pistols, we have assault rifles, we have light machine guns, we have shotguns, we have sniper rifles, and we have submachine guns. In total, there are over 70 different types of firearms, and each firearm has its own shooting, feel, and characteristics, exactly as it is in this reality. These firearms, well, you can find some in your world exploration, but those are kind of basic weapons. If you want to get like powerful and more advanced firearms, you have to craft them from blueprints. The key resources that can be obtained by purchasing, upgrading personal territory, and you can complete tasks to get rewards of those blueprints, and you can find some scraps of the blueprints in your world exploration. The rarer the blueprint, the higher the quality of weapons you can craft.
What sort of customization options are there for the weapons?
Well, there are basically 6 human non-player characters factions in the game, and we also divide our guns into 6 different gun families, which is associated with these human factions, and they kind of share a lineage of development in skills and attributes. And players can also modify your guns, like improve the stability of the firearm. You can probably optimize the recoil, enlarge the magazine capacity by adding accessories to the guns. And these accessories, you can also loot them from strongholds or craft them based on accessory blueprints. Also, firearms have another important attribute called gun perks. Firearms with, different rarities have different numbers and different levels of gun perks it can be assembled to it. By assembling these gun perks, you can give your weapon a lot of passive skills like chain damage, damage boost, freezing, ignition, automatic reload, and so on. So combining these gun perks with your passive skills and with your player's active skills, you can actually form countless, numerous builds, and this will definitely enrich your combat experience.
Now, is there anything you'd like to leave players with before they explore Once Human?
Well, I very much hope that Once Human will be ready for players as soon as possible in the future. And also, as a designer of Once Human, I am looking forward to see more and more survival game lovers join us, start their journey in Nalcott, and to experience exciting combats and explore the fascinating world with us. And there's a final advice for everyone who is trying to start their journey in Nalcott. Be sure to collect enough copper ores in the Sirius Island area, as much as possible. You won't regret getting them.
Victoria, thank you so much for joining me. Well, that about wraps things up for this presentation. Once Human is releasing on PC with a release date coming soon. And for more on all things gaming, stay tuned to IGN.com.